What's up, guys? Just in one of my favorite canyons right now. I'm taking a smoke bath because the bugs were getting so bad on the way up here, and I was just sweating and everything. Anyway, this is one of my favorite places to come, and sometimes I just like to come back here and just kind of meditate, relax, get away from things. This is a place where I often hear wood knocks. This is one of the very first places that I used to frequent. This canyon is a fail-safe. Sometimes I call it Bigfoot Print Canyon, because it's a fail-safe to find footprints and Sasquatch sign and have an encounter of some sort. I've had a sighting here. I've heard hundreds of wood knocks. This is where I've had the most rocks thrown at me, and I found a 22-inch footprint in this canyon. I mean, I've been paced in this canyon. I've heard, I mean, you wouldn't even believe, there's just so many things have happened here. This is where I learned a lot about structures and all that stuff. Well, I just wanted to come up here today and talk about a theory that I just recently adopted. And I've been going through hypothesis after hypothesis and experimentation and experience and encounters to finally arrive at this theory that I have, that I feel is a working theory, and it seems to consistently be correct, at least in my opinion. Now, you guys know, like I always say, most of the things that I share, most of the things that I think about, the speculation, the theories, the opinions I have, most of that is probably wrong. Okay? The majority of the stuff that I say is probably wrong. But it's important to hypothesize. It's important to experiment. It's important to document. It's important to modify your hypothesis and your prediction when the results don't seem to support your hypothesis. Anyway, so here's the theory. I call it the, what did I call it? The Sasquatch present awareness theory, or just present awareness theory, okay? Now, what I mean by present awareness is that, let me get out of the smoke here. So whatever the Sasquatch is presently aware, or when you have an encounter, there's different types of encounters like I've talked about before, and some of them are impersonal encounters. They're passive. There's just some wood knocks, or maybe some whooping when you're coming into an area or you're passing through an area. The Sasquatch don't know you. You're just humans, and either they're just kind of keeping it tabs on you, or they're annoyed, or whatever. It's just impersonal. And then there's the encounters where they're coming in specifically to interact with you, which is extremely rare. And they're going to vocalize, they're going to make noises into your recorder, pick it up, they're curious, they want to interact with you, they want to be involved with you, they want to come and encounter you and all that stuff, and that's kind of a more personal encounter. And then there's the encounters where it's a surprise to one or both parties, and it's entirely impersonal. Now, based on my experience with these things, the more that the Sasquatch is aware of what's going on in the moment, so presently aware of the situation. So if you're coming in to a canyon and the Sasquatch sees you and it says, okay, there's an adult male, he has 2 dogs, there's no one else with him, he doesn't have a gun, he's not here to hunt or cut down trees or whatever. We know him, he's come up here several times, he knows that we're here. The more that they're aware of, Okay, the more that they are presently aware of all of the circumstances and conditions surrounding whatever situation they're in, the less likely you are to have what I'm going to call a physical encounter, whether it's you actually see a creature, a hair-covered bipedal creature, you see it, or it screams at you, or it bluff charges you. Those are the more like animalistic, physical, tangible things, and also video, capture one on video where you can see it. It looks like a bear or something, but it's a man and it's walking. So the more that the Sasquatch is aware of the situation, the less likely you are to have those physical nuts and bolts encounters. And the more likely, so the more that the Sasquatch is aware of the present situation, the more likely you are to have the less tangible types of encounters. So it might come up pretty close, you can't see anything, you might get the weirder stuff that sometimes people refer to as paranormal or supernatural. And it might not be paranormal or supernatural at all. We don't know whether these things are literally going invisible or whether they're somehow simulating invisibility in some strange way, or what's happening. We don't know, but I've known for a long time that there's a lot more to these creatures than something that's about the intelligence level of a chimpanzee. Basically what I'm trying to say is they're not the that's not their intelligence level. They are at least comparable to human intelligence. And I think that they have cognitive abilities that far surpass some of the cognitive abilities that we have. I think they're hyper intuitive. I think that they're able to somehow project fear and emotions, maybe even ideas, which some people would call that telepathy. Telepathy is not a mystical thing. Telepathy is not a magical thing. It's documented. It's well documented, and it's been observed for as far back as written history goes, at least with mankind. So another thing that the U.S. military has experimented with a lot is telekinesis, which is not usually something that people report, or I don't even think I've ever heard somebody report that with a Sasquatch encounter, which is interesting. You'd think that if people were just making crap up, that they'd be like, oh yeah, and it was like lifting up rocks with its mind, dude. No, but they don't, right? The things that keep coming up, the weird supernatural stuff, are its ability to mind speak. What people, and sometimes people will say that they can actually hear something in their head. It's like an audible. It's like having headphones on. It's not outside. You know, when you have headphones on, the sound feels, if it's in both ears, the sound feels like it's right inside your head, and you can tell that the sound is not to your left or your right or whatever. So sometimes people say that they have like an auditory. What am I trying to say here? Auditory? Is that a word? Anyway, they have an experience. They can hear something. It's audible in their head. And then other people sometimes describe the mind speak with like they get a very strong impression. Now that's where it gets kind of weird. Is you don't really know. Okay, you're saying you had a feeling, an impression. Well, you know, how do you know? You know, how do you know that that wasn't you making it up? And so, and then the other thing that you have to take into account is that yes, for some reason, people with mental illnesses, and I know this now from experience, people with mental illnesses are for some reason attracted to these fringe topics. And so there is that too that you have to deal with. But you know, it might be tricky to navigate the real stuff from the crazy stuff, because there definitely is crazy stuff, but it doesn't matter. I mean, there is real stuff going on, so we have to figure out a way to navigate through it, because the real stuff really is there. Okay, so people consistently report the mind speak stuff. They consistently report what they call invisibility. Some people call it cloaking. Some people call it, you know, I was going to say the predator thing, but that is cloaking, I guess. Some people say that they go into a different dimension, which I have no idea how you would know that it went into a different dimension. That doesn't even make sense that you would know that. But for whatever reason, it ceases to be visible. Now, this is something that sounds ridiculous, because invisibility is not observed in nature at all. There's never been an animal at any time that has been observed that goes invisible. We've seen remarkable camouflaging abilities with cuttlefish, octopus. We've seen incredible camouflaging abilities with megafauna even. But invisibility is something that's completely foreign to modern science, especially in the animal kingdom. Well, I shouldn't say especially, it's just completely foreign. Nevertheless, it's reported so many times, it's reported consistently. And even the people that I know that I've gone out with and I've had encounters with and stuff, that were completely like, dude, this invisibility stuff is so crazy, I don't want anything to do with it. Even those people, now that they've gone out into the woods more and they've spent time in these wallows, they've come back to me and they said, dude, this and this and this happened to me, and I'm pretty sure that they go invisible. So that's interesting to me. Do I believe in invisibility? No. It's not something that I believe in, but it's not something that I'm not going to take it off the table. It's not off the table, okay? None of us have figured out a way to go and shake hands with a Sasquatch and present it to the world, so why take things off the table? All right, so anyway, back to my theory of present awareness, Sasquatch present awareness theory. The less aware that a Sasquatch is of the situation, meaning it doesn't know that there's a human in the area, it's caught off guard, the less that a Sasquatch knows and is presently aware of in the moment, the more likely you're going to have an aggressive encounter, the more likely you're going to have a physical encounter, the more likely you're going to have, like you're going to see something hairy, you're going to get in bluff charge, it's going to run from you, or it's going to do something crazy. You know, there's one guy that came around a corner and he was picking berries up in, I think it was Washington, and he came around a corner and he saw a Sasquatch, a large Sasquatch female with a juvenile, and the juvenile, the female quickly put the juvenile behind her, like shuffled the juvenile behind her, and started walking away from him. And her eyes got big, and he could tell that he startled the mother, and the mother put herself between him and the child. So clearly, there's a feeling of a threat, which is interesting. The Sasquatch can feel threatened, or that they can at least feel that their children are threatened or unsafe. And then, right before the Sasquatch went out of sight, the mother, and she's hulking and huge, she turned around and looked at him, and she picked up a stick off the ground, and she just threw it really hard onto the ground. Boom! It made a huge thud, and it stuck into the soil. Right, so she just threw it behind her, so between her and the man, there's this stick now sticking in the trail. Basically, it's like, hey buddy, don't come any further, you know, or there's going to be hell to pay, basically. But that was an encounter where the Sasquatch was not presently aware of what was going on, of the situation. So Sasquatch seemed to have a lot of abilities that I'm not even going to try to begin to define. I'm not going to use the word cloaking, because that means that's saying way too much. That's like saying, yeah, I know what they're doing. They're cloaking themselves, and I don't know what they're doing. So I'm not going to use any words. I'm not going to try to define it or categorize it or label it. I'm just going to say that it seems that they can do a lot more. And at the very least, it seems like they have cognitive abilities that in certain ways would completely baffle our current understanding of psychology and neuroscience and all that stuff. So the Sasquatch present awareness theory that I came up with, to me kind of explains the whole spectrum of sightings, or at least it helps us understand what to expect and why and in what way this different sightings happen. And this theory of mine comes after many hypotheses, like I said, and it seems to consistently hold up in the wild, in the outdoors, and through my encounters and my experiences. For example, here in this canyon, I come and I make a lot of noise. It's pretty impossible for a Sasquatch or a human to not know that someone is coming into this canyon. It gets really narrow. It becomes kind of like a slot canyon in places, and the acoustics are incredible. They pretty much always know that I'm here, and they do a lot of the weirder stuff in this canyon. But I've also surprised one of them in this canyon, and it's the sighting that I talked about. And it was a younger one, and it freaked out. It was, I shared this story on Sasquatch Chronicles. It started looking back and forth, and it was freaking out. So this theory kind of explains all of my encounters and all my sightings and all of the stuff that I've experienced. It kind of brings it together. So of course it's just a theory. So if there's observation that contradicts it in the future, then time to change. It's just time to change the theory, time to change our opinions. But so far it seems to be a working theory. Anyway, hope that made sense, guys, and I'll see you later, I guess.